Hey, have you heard of this Bill Maher guy?
He was from the very beginning, even years ago, despite all of the criticism, despite all of the liberal progressive, oh, let's be careful about Islam. Let's be careful. Let's not offend anybody. He was always like, hey, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's garbage. It's terrible, and I'm going to talk about it. And he hasn't changed in that way, and I'm so happy to
hmm
see that.
Yeah, and that's cool because that goes back. I mean, it was all the way. It was back in the '90s. I didn't watch it, but he had his show Politically Incorrect,
Uh huh.
and he would just cover all the stuff that is actually politically incorrect. So, yeah, he's always been ready to share controversial views and go against the grain. It's got to be a rough spot because I mean, liberals have always been his main target audience, and going against this, which he's always pointed out, like how insane is it that we defend this? Like how are we nuts? Like what is that? Um, so yeah, he's always been willing to point that out. But it's weird because sometimes I'll listen to him and I'll think this guy's a freaking dope. He'll be talking about something. It'll be like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Get him talking. I mean, like he sounds like a Jesus myther. Like the entire thing is all just made up. Um, sometimes, which I mean, and he'll go with like the pagan myth theory that the early Christians are like, ooh, let's copy Mithras and we'll copy all these pagan gods, which no one holds anymore. That's like from the position from like the 70s.
Yeah.
But he'll still cling to that sort of thing and be talking to people who don't know any better. And so he just rolls with it and so on. But it's weird because when it comes to Islam, he's like the most commonsensical person out there. And it's just, and I've seen him over and over and over again when people try to whitewash the situation or say, but everyone has their radicals, not like this, not like this, guys. And he just breaks it
Yeah.
down and so on. So, and he always sounds like I've seen him on other people's news programs when they're interviewing him on this stuff. And he goes into like he's the teacher and they're the student mode, and they don't, and it's just amazing because they don't know how to defend any of the little things they're trained to say, and he just ends up ripping them apart.
He also
Anyway.
does this thing which I love very much. Like even among a lot of these, atheist people, you get this thing a lot. Like when Islam is criticized, they will say, and yeah, also other religions and all religions and this and that. Um, and he specifically refuses to do that, and he also calls it out. Like there were several occasions where when he said something about Islam and Muslim beliefs, and then. A guest or a host when he was somewhere else said, "Yeah, okay, but isn't that true for all religions?" And he's like, no, no, it's not. It's
Mhm.
not. This is about Islam. It's only Islam that is like this. It's only Islam that is violent in such a way, and so on. So I don't know. I just love that despite a lot of hate and criticism that he got from the left for that stance, so many times they were like, why is he still around? Why don't we cancel him? He's Islamophobic and all of that. He's like, I don't care about you
Mhm.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the plan for this show is we're going to go through recent his recent little monologue from Real Time with Bill Maher. This is HBO, and they are very, very strict about flagging stuff. And then I was about to go on, and AP said, "Hey, you might want to pause it even more than usual because it's because of the flagging and so on. Because HBO will actually take down your video while you're live."
Yeah.
And so on if you play too much of it. So we'll probably like pause it after each of his points or jokes or something like that.
Yeah.
And if we've got time, we might revisit the famous Sam Harris, Ben Affleck moment
Disaster.
on Real Time from several years ago. It was funny. I was watching, I think it was Joe Rogan. And he was saying he thinks that Ben Affleck was roided up at the moment, and that's why he was like so enraged. He thinks he was juiced up because he was getting ready for Batman.
It's gross. It's racist.
It's gross. It's racist. You're hurting. So you're saying that every single Muslim who's ever no, we're not saying. So you're saying you just want to kill everybody. It's hilarious.
Little town of Bethlehem was 86% Christian. Now it's overwhelmingly Muslim.
I was
Wow.
waiting for him to make fun of Christians right here. When I saw that, I was waiting for him to make fun of Christians. Isn't that interesting? I was like, he's about to make fun of Christians. Nope, wrong. He's not doing that at all. Watch.
And that's my point tonight. Things change. To 2.3 billion Christians, there can be no more sacred site than where their Savior was born. But they don't have it anymore. And yet no Crusader army has geared up to take it back. Things change.
Wow. Didn't expect that, right? You usually don't expect that when you when you open a Bill Maher video.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's Bill Maher talking about Christmas. You just know he's going to toss in some pagan myth theory or something like that into it.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, the fact that he's just pointing out, hey, guys, you don't see Christians running around going on massacre sprees to get back Bethlehem. And it's interesting because not only is it a holy site for Christians, he's pointing out Christians had that. Christians had that very recently. Christians controlled that in the 20th century. So you're talking the same time that Palestinians are saying that they had their territory and so on. Okay, great. Well, Bethlehem was Christian. It's not anymore. Yeah. It's not anymore. And yet, for some reason, you don't see Christians like around the world. I mean, notice you don't see protests, anything.
But if you ask Daniel Kikic or something, they will say it's because Christians don't follow their religion properly.
Yes,
otherwise, they would be violent.
They should be massacring everybody. What a dope. So yeah. Anyway, I seriously thought he was about to just make fun, like at least a throwaway joke or something like that about Christians, and didn't do that. Interesting stuff. But yeah, so he's about to do a series of these on people getting their minds around the idea that, hey, the world has changed. We don't control that anymore. That's life. Sorry, doesn't work. What are we going to do? We going to start a war over it? All right.
Yes.
Countries, boundaries, empires. Palestine was under the Ottoman Empire for 400 years, but today an Ottoman is something you put under your feet.
In age of the Ottoman Empire, now we have nothing. That's when the caliphate fell, ladies and gentlemen.
It was my empire.
When Muslim nations messed with Western nations, which were way more powerful by that time.
Yes.
Good one, Bill.
The city of Byzantium became the city of Constantinople, became Istanbul. Not everybody liked it, but you can't keep arguing the call forever. The Irish had the entire island to themselves, but the British were starting an empire, and, well, the Irish lost their tip.
Yeah.
So he starts with Bethlehem and Christians. Christians controlled that very recently. They had a majority there very recently, and it's a holy site. You don't see Christians starting bloodbaths. The Irish in England that they fought for a while. They fought for a while. Were violent for a while, and watch.
They blew each other up over it for 30 years, but eventually everybody comes to an accommodation.
Mm-hmm. Irish voters, North and South, give resounding yes to peace. So fought for a while, and then they don't want to fight anymore.
Except the Palestinians.
Woo.
Except the
That sounds
Palestinians.
harsh. That sounds pretty harsh.
The reason I like this clip is because that's the takeaway, guys. You can believe entirely and completely that Israel was wrong, that the Jews were wrong back in the 20th century. You can believe that Jews took the land. They just went in there and strong-armed it. You don't have to believe that there were Jews who were still living there, who had always been living there. You don't have to believe that there were Jews who went and bought property there and lived there because they bought land. You don't have to believe that it was the British mandate of Palestine, that it was the British controlled it because they conquered the Ottoman Empire, and that there weren't these Palestinian people who've been living there all along and who are being. You don't have to believe. You could believe the standard myth, and you could say, all right, that was a long time ago. There's nothing we can do about it now, and therefore we need to try to find peace.
Yeah,
you could do that, and you could be working towards a two-state solution. You could be doing all of that, and be completely wrong about everything and still have peace as a goal. But with this one group and this one area, no, that's never on the table. It's just you have to fight until you completely wipe out one side. And the people that you want to wipe out are just massively more powerful than you. So you can't actually do it. And so what you're actually calling for is endless terrorism.
Was it unjust that even a single Arab family was forced to move upon the founding of the Jewish state? Yes. But it's also not rare, happening all through history, all over the world, and mostly what people do is make the best of it. After World War II, 12 million ethnic Germans got shoved out of Russia and Poland and Czechoslovakia because being German had become kind of unpopular. 1 million Greeks were shoved out of Turkey in 1923, 1 million Ghanaians out of Nigeria in 1983, almost 1 million French out of Algeria in 1962. Nearly 1 million Syrian refugees moved to Germany 8 years ago. Was that a perfect fit?
According to Germans, yeah. It's funny. As soon as he started going through these, I was like, he's going to talk about the Jews getting kicked out. He's going to talk about Jews getting kicked out of countries. All right, going to talk about it.
No one knows more about being pushed off land than the Jews, including being almost wholly kicked out of every Arab country they once lived in.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. That should be.
Thank you,
guys. If you want to get one of these lists of Jews who are kicked out of Muslim countries, was kicked off their land, fleeing for their lives. That's one of the most important things you can ever share because if people are saying, hey, the Palestinians had land in what is now Israel, just, back in the 1940s, they had this, and therefore they have a right to get that back. Okay. Then give the Jews back their land in Algeria, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Syria, and so on. Give it back. Give it back. No one's going to do it.
Give it back right now.
So why? Why don't Muslims have to give back land when they kick Jews off land, but Jews supposedly have to just walk out of Israel and hand it over to Hamas? Please explain that. We don't get it. We don't understand that. We don't think you're being consistent at all.
Yeah. It's so good to see that he actually brought this up on this mainstream platform here, because this is something that so rarely comes up. It's something that is mentioned by certain people on social media, but it's so rarely addressed on mainstream platforms. It's so good that he did this. And here's the thing: like when it comes to the expulsion or displacement of Jews from the Arab countries, there is some nuance to that, and I want to be fair with that. And some people will say, well, it wasn't completely being kicked out. That's correct. The Zionists in Israel, they actually preferred Jews from around the world coming in to Israel. And they specifically mentioned among their projects in the beginnings that they must take into consideration the capacity that their state can offer, because a lot of the Mizrahi Jews, the Eastern Jews in the Arab world, may or will come to Israel and will make this their new home. But that didn't happen for no reason. They didn't just think, those Jews in those countries, they live there very, very well. But you know what? Just to mess with them, let's have them all come here and leave those countries. No, they a lot of them chose to move out, to flee. A lot of them were encouraged to go to Israel. A lot of them were directly deported and kicked out. And that because the Jews experienced a lot of oppression, a lot of pogroms, a lot of harassment, blood libels, and this and that over the centuries. But especially in the 20th century, all of this intensified even more. And in the Arab world, Jews around the Arab world were basically mistreated as a result of what is happening in the whole Palestine region, which only proves the point that Jews need a safe home for themselves. Because whenever there is something happening that involves Jews, or even if there's nothing happening, they will always crack down on their own Jewish population and threaten them. And that is how they all lost their Jewish populations.
Yes, TikTok fans, ethnic cleansing happened both ways.
That's funny that he's like, he's aware of what's going on TikTok and all the, hey, maybe Bin Laden was right. He's got a good idea. Oh, maybe Hitler was smarter than we thought he was. Yeah, I'm on TikTok and I'm a moron.
History is brutal, and humans are not good people.
He's right. Humans suck.
Yeah.
And notice the,
how dare you say humans suck? I'm a human.
Notice the completely simple reasoning there. The world is an imperfect place. Humans suck and do horrible things. You have to try and get along in the world and not just try to destroy it because you don't get your way all the time, because you're not going to get your way all the time. You have to live with it. You have to live with the fact that some stuff happens that you're not going to agree with. And you don't have a bloodbath every time something doesn't go your way.
Humans are amazing, man. Fantastic.
Very sad and full of wrongs, but you can't make them unhappen because a paraglider isn't a time machine. People get moved and, yes, colonized. Nobody was a bigger colonizer than the Muslim army that swept...
Ouch! Love this guy, man.
army that swept out of the Arabian desert and took over much of the world in a single century. And
Peacefully.
they didn't do it by asking.
They didn't do it by asking?
This is so good. I saw my wife watching it. Like this was the other day. We were done with our live stream, and then I sat down and she was watching it, and I was like, "Is that Bill Maher?" She said, "Yeah." And then I'm listening while doing something else, and I hear him mention these things, and I thought, "Yes, this is exactly the Bill Maher that I know."
This is perfect. This is perfect. This is as close to a perfect monologue on this topic as I think you could have. I can't imagine. I can't even think of like how to improve it. Like any section of what he's saying, he's just crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason Saudi Arabia's flag is a sword. Kosovo was the cradle of Christian Serbia. Then it became Muslim. They fought a war about it in the 90s, but stopped. They didn't keep it going for 75 years.
I mean, notice again, if people say they're we're not anti-Semitic, we're anti-Zionist. And then in their minds, it'll make sense. They'll be able to rationalize it in their minds. Oh, I'm just against this horrible injustice that has occurred. You know, if you were actually, if you didn't just have a problem with Jews, then if you really thought, hey, there was this, this injustice many decades ago, and therefore you just have to keep fighting and slaughtering to right that, you would be saying that about all these places. You'd be saying that about all these places, and you would be saying that Jews should be out. That the Israeli army should be using its firepower to go back and seize land in Muslim countries. It should be doing that if you actually believed it, and if you didn't just have a problem with Jews. So the idea that no, we just have a problem with this injustice because we're against injustice. Okay, then you should be having a problem with all these other places, and you should be saying that Christians should be slaughtering Muslims right there, instead of eventually coming to terms to avoid the bloodbath. But you don't. There's this one spot in the entire world, and it just happened because it involves Jews, that you have to have an endless bloodbath.
Plus, it's also it's complete nonsense when they argue that this is not about Islam. Throughout the Muslim world, you will always hear them say to each other, "We are Muslims. We have to stand up for each other. This is about Islam. This is about Islam. It's about Islam versus the enemy." They say that all the time. But somehow, when they want to bring it to these international conversations, they want to make it just about, "Oh, this is about humanity. It's about
human
oppression."
rights.
Yeah,
and notice
that's nonsense.
The wonderful United Nations. We're just seeking justice. You guys don't do that anywhere else in the entire planet except when Jews are involved.
There were deals on the table to share the land called Palestine in 1947, 93, 95, 98, 2000, 2008, and East Jerusalem could have been the capital of a Palestinian state that today might look more like Dubai than Gaza.
Difficult.
He crushed it again, though, by pointing out,
Yeah.
"Hey, you guys had your chance at a two-state solution over and over and over again. You were offered this over and over and over again. You rejected it over and over and over again, and then you complain that you don't have your own state. Isn't that nuts? By the way, like Jews are like, hey, here, you can have this state. No, we don't want it. Look, no, we'll give you a state. No, we don't want it. Look, we'll here it is. You take your state. No, we won't want it. We want all of it. Okay, you're not getting all of it, but we'll give you a state. No, we don't want it. And then, oh, why don't we have our own state? Why?
It's so weird that the prime minister Ehud Olmert, in 2008, he made the offer of giving the West Bank, almost the entire West Bank, over to them, while only keeping very small portions, as Israeli settlements as part of Israel, but giving more than 90-something% to the Palestinians, and to have them declare their sovereign state, and for Israel to recognize that state. It was so generous after this entire history. And he said his very clear words to Mahmoud Abbas were something along the lines of, look, agree to this, because there will not be anyone for the next 50 years who will make you such an offer from our side. Take this. But no, they rejected it.
Yeah, and when I was there, an IDF guy actually broke it down to us. Why he's saying, he's like, in this year we offered them 97% of what they wanted. This year we offered them 98% of what they wanted, and so on. And he said, they always of course reject it. He said, as far as like and keep in mind, guys, these are for the two-state solution. So these are negotiations trying to get a two-state solution, and a Palestinian group will say, here's all the land we want, and as part of two states. So as a compromise, and not saying that we get all of Israel or something like that. Here's everything we want, and we will make guarantees of peace if you give us this. And Israel would say, we can't give you all of that. We'll give you 97%. There are reasons. And some of it would be, okay, you want that hill, but there's a Jewish village at the bottom of that hill. And you can't have that hill because it would be very easy to just toss bombs literally off the side of the hill and bomb this village anytime you guys get upset. So you can't have the top of that hill. You just can't have that. And so these are the limitations that they're putting on it. But so rejected. Yeah, rejected. But over and over and over again, you could have your state, you could have your state, you could have your state, you reject it, you reject it, you reject it. And then you whine, why don't we have our state? And then you've got all these morons on college campuses running around going, shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, thinking that they're calling for a two-state solution, not realizing they're calling for genocide and calling for Israel to be completely wiped off the map.
Here is Bill Maher is making a good point here and raising something good. Now, the thing is, if you want to go back into the history, you can do the blame game forever. But it will turn out that actually the violence and all of that was started every single time almost from the Arab side, because they didn't like the idea that the Jews are coming there and that they are playing with the thoughts of establishing a proper home for themselves. But let's say it's the other side's fault, and let's say you lost your land. That's very far from what actually happened. But let's say that's what happened. It's been so many years. It has been the whole conflict, the first violent conflict between the Arabs and the Zionists in the region started in 1920. 1920. It's been more than 100 years. After so much time of you guys not being able to figure it out, of losing again and again and again and again and again, maybe you should come to terms with the fact that, yes, things were different back then. They didn't go your way. You wanted all of the land for you, didn't go your way. Maybe you should at some point settle for what you have as a result of your lack of or your failure in diplomacy. But no. You just want to go back to the very beginning and act like, no, we never lost. Yeah. We cannot lose. We must go back and get every single thing that we think belonged to us at some point. That's just ridiculously stupid.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And that's what, I mean, that's what Bill Maher was pointing out with all these other examples. Everyone understands that things change, situations change. You may have controlled this at one point, but then you don't control it anymore. Now you're outnumbered. What do you do? And everyone in the world eventually realizes, okay, we have to move on. We have to move on. We can't fight over this forever, except one group.
Arafat was offered 95% of the West Bank and
95%.
said no. The Palestinian people should know your leaders and the useful idiots on college campuses who are their allies are not doing you any favors by keeping alive the river to the sea myth. I mean, where do you think Israel is going? Spoiler alert, nowhere.
And guess what? You know, you could sit here and think, oh, why is he siding with that he started this off by saying we need to be realistic here. Let's be realistic here. That is completely realistic. You could be the most pro-Palestine people in the world and still say he's absolutely correct. Israel's not going anywhere. That's just life. You're not wiping Israel off the map. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Get over it. Yeah. it's just because it's so simple, guys. Okay. You continue fighting, not because you want your own separate state. You could have had that a million times. You keep fighting because you want to completely wipe out this group that is massively more powerful than you can't hope to defeat ever.
Well, that's how it goes.
You can't do it. They're too powerful for you to stop. What do? You live with it then, and you try to do the best that you can. That's very, very simple and commonsensical. We can't wipe them out. Therefore, the best we can do is have our own state. And you could have it. And you could have it. My goodness, they're stupid.
It's one of the most powerful countries in the world with the $500 billion economy, the world's second largest tech sector after Silicon Valley. And
that's interesting, isn't it? Second, like Israel is second to Silicon Valley as far as the tech sector.
Nuclear weapons. They're here.
And they're nuclear.
They like their bagel with a schmear. Get used to it. What's happening to Palestinians today is horrible. And not just in Gaza, in the West Bank, too. But wars end with negotiation. And what the media glosses over is it's hard to negotiate when the other side's bargaining position is you all die and disappear.
Yes.
This dude's crushing it, man.
And it's so stupid that this simple point is not being mentioned. And people just act like this is not a thing. It's a reality. The Palestinian side overwhelmingly believes in eventually, destroying the other side and getting all of the land. Hamas explicitly said many, many times in their charter and also over the decades, even as recently as 2019 publicly, that they believe all Jews need to be killed. So, how do you negotiate with that?
Yeah. I would say you are under no obligation to negotiate with those if that's the goal of the opposing side, and you are entirely justified in taking precautions to make sure they do not ever have the opportunity to do that to you. Somehow, no, you've got one side that wants to exterminate the other side, and the side that these guys want to exterminate isn't allowed to take any sort of precautions to defend itself from these guys. It's insane. No one applies that rule to anyone else in the world except Jews.
I mean, the chant from the river to the sea. Yeah, let's look at the map. Here's the river.
He's good.
Here's the sea. Oh, I see. It means you get all of it. Not just the West Bank, which was basically the original UN partition deal you rejected because you wanted all of it and always have, even though it's indisputably also the Jews' ancestral homeland. And so you attacked and lost.
Ouch.
And attacked again and lost. And attacked again and lost. As my friend Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you?
So Dr. Phil will say that when someone's got their way of doing things and it just keeps failing and failing and failing and failing. Hey, how's that working for you? You have to wonder, because you can think from an Islamic perspective. You can think, Allah's just testing us. He's testing our resolve. But
they do think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But does there ever come a point where you just realize, okay, God's just not on our side in this. He's obviously not on our side.
Look at what Mexico used to own, all the way up to the top of California. But no Mexican is out there chanting, from the Rio Grande to Portland, Oregon. One of the leaders of Hamas says, save yourselves time and imaginary dreams. In a few years, Allah willing, you will have to discuss the situation in the region after Israel.
After Israel.
I'm sorry, who's the one with imaginary dreams?
Yeah. Save yourselves times and imaginary dreams. In a few years, Allah willing, you will have to discuss the situation in the region after Israel. Total insane, idiotic fantasy land.
It's so ridiculously stupid. Like I was a Muslim. I learned and I heard the very same thing again and again from people all around of like, the day will come, inshallah. They just need to be steadfast. The day will come. Yes, it will finally be taken back. Yes, they will own it again one day. And this just keeps going in ridiculous ways. And even when the Palestinian groups are at a point where they are exhausted and they just want to settle for things. Like this is one of the theories and one of the actually substantiated points as well, that during some of the negotiations, especially with Yasser Arafat and even Mahmoud Abbas, that they wanted to accept certain conditions and certain peace agreements, but they couldn't because they were constantly told by the rival factions and also by other powers and people around the world. No, you shouldn't do this. How dare you even negotiate with them? How dare you even try to accept any form of peace which does not include taking all of the land and making it all a Muslim Arab land? How dare you even think of peace? Like the Muslim Arab world, they don't care. They don't care at all about the population there. They don't care at all about the civilians there. For them, they feel sad and they want to express their sadness when Palestinians die, but they just want the Palestinians to go on and continue fighting and continue dying. They don't want them to have peace because they think it's greater than them. We can sit here at home in our warm homes and watch those people in Gaza die, and we can say, why is the world watching? But we must make sure that they continue dying and fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like the level of insane delusion here that this guy thinks up. In a few years, we're actually going to control that. Panzer the Lake says, if Palestinians have the right of return, then why doesn't everyone who's been conquered by Islam have the right to reclaim their land? Yeah, that's something we pointed out a number of times. I mean, Muhammad conquers Medina, runs out the Jews. He conquers Mecca, forces people to convert. He conquers Arabia, and then they conquer their way west all the way up into Europe. They conquer their way east all the way out to India and China and so on. And somehow, nope, this is, if it involves Jews, then it's a different situation.
It is.
Different completely rules.
Give you the benefit of the doubt and say your plan for a completely Jewless Palestine isn't that all the Jews should die? What is the only other option? They move. You move all the Jews. Okay, I got to warn you, there's going to be some kvetching.
What?
Even that, as he's closing out, there's not much longer on this clip, but even there, he's making a very important but simple point that the college students and so on don't get. Okay, we're going to assume the best. If you want this, you control it. If you want Hamas or whoever to control all the land from the river to the sea, what happens to the Jews? He's saying, even if we give you the benefit of the doubt and don't think you want to exterminate them, how are you going about this? You're going to move them all. You're going to move them all. You guys, so Hamas, guys think you're going to move all the Jews off that land somehow? Really? When they are about 1 million times more powerful than you? You seriously think that? It's all delusional. It's all insane and delusional. You could say, hey, don't be more careful dropping bombs. You could say that. You could say that and have that as an actual goal.
Don't be more careful dropping bombs? Why would you say that?
Yeah, so you could say things like, hey, be more careful, or you could aim towards a two-state solution, or something like that. You could do something that is not absolutely insane. The
Yeah.
people who, from the river to the sea, Palestine, you are insane. Or you're just completely ignorant. You don't know what you're calling for. But if you know what you're calling for, and you think that is even in the realm of possibility, you're a moron. You're a complete, total idiot. Because that's not happening. We live in a real world, not a fantasy world. It doesn't make a lot of sense to say, here's the way things were a century ago, 2 centuries ago, 5 centuries ago, and we have to go back to that, even though there's no way we're going back to that. It's at that time has passed. It's not happening anymore. It's, hey, here's the actual situation we're in. How do we move forward? It's very, very simple, and yet somehow totally absent from discussions of the Palestinians.
Liberals have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to...
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Exactly.
Hey, guys, I just... For those who want to say, no, Sam Harris is wrong and stupid about this other thing. Yeah, he reminds me of Bill Maher in that sense, that he could be like, how are you this right over here and this stupid on this other topic? But yes, for some reason, just very, it's something that should be completely commonsensical. It must just be, they have some part of their brain that makes them somewhat immune to a certain kind of manipulation that influences most other people. And they just don't fall for it. And they're able to see clearly on this issue. Wait, if this is our list of values, then Islam is the opposite of that. Why in the name of common sense would we be supporting Islam? Whereas everyone else is just told, here is our list of values, and support Islam anyway, no matter what.
Yeah.
Talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world. I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion,
Hey, yay, woohoo! Got the audience full of liberals saying, yeah, liberals suck when it comes to Islam, and we get insanely stupid.
Thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah.
Well, did you hear Ben?
What did he say?
He said, thank God you're here, like sarcastically.
Oh, yeah.
And that messed up. So he's like, hey, we failed. Liberals have failed when it comes to Islam, and Ben Affleck possibly roided out. I do not know that is the case. He could have just been totally enraged for some other reason, but it is plausible, Joe Rogan's theory, that he's actually roided up to play Batman at this point, and he's in a roid rage. But thank God you're here.
Pay attention to what's happening up until this point here. They're not even talking about Islam in the West or opposing Islamization. They're not talking about any of these rather controversial things. They are talking about the rights of people in the Muslim world, like the rights of minorities, the rights of gay people, the rights of women, the rights of others in the Muslim world. It should be completely normal for you to agree that you should stand up for them, because they probably need your help and your solidarity. But at this point, to be outraged, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's like, how is this not just completely obvious? Like, of course. I mean, even the audience is like, yes, good point. Like, hey, we're a bunch of liberals here, and we realize we've been really stupid in defending terrorism and Islamic abuse of women. And I mean, gosh, they still have the death penalty for being gay, and you persecute religious minorities. How are we defending this? It is the exact opposite of everything we say we stand for. How is it even controversial to say we've failed if we are defending Islam?
The crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous.
Look, you can hear the crowd getting it. They're getting it because it should be obvious to everyone. When someone says, "Hey, look, you can beat your wives into submission. You can marry child brides and stuff. We should be standing against that. And say, oh, you're just racist against brown people. You're like, oh, that's stupid. You shouldn't be falling for that. The crowd sees it. And then Ben Affleck, the champion of that, that's racist, is about to jump in and do exactly what what Sam here is pointing out is insanely stupid.
So even it gets
so hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam?
Actually, yes, he is. So.
Isn't that nuts, though? Like, I mean, think about this. Guys, we're liberals. We say that these are our values. Islam teaches the exact opposite of those values. And we defend Islam because we've been programmed. We've been relentlessly programmed and conditioned to think of any criticism of Islamic values as something to do with racism. And it's just because the only people who say that that these things are wrong in the Muslim world are racists. We've been programmed that, and we need to stop. We need to actually defend the values that we say we believe in. This is what you see. Any random politician who knows absolutely nothing about Islam, any journalist who knows absolutely nothing about Islam, they've all felt for years that they can say what is and is not Islamic. To such an extent, they'll say, these guys are not real Muslims because they're doing this, even though those of us who study Islam know that what those guys are doing is exactly what Islam teaches. But you'll have politicians and journalists, no, those aren't real Muslims because they're doing this thing that is commanded in the Quran.
Yeah.
And yet, if you criticize anything, well, are you an expert on Sharia? Did you go to Al-Azhar? Are you the Grand Mufti? Then you have to shut up. Why? How is that a rule? How do you need to be a world-renowned expert to say, Muhammad says right here, you can beat your wife into submission, that's bad. Why do you need to be a scholar to say that? I don't know. I haven't been able to figure out. It really, really looks like it's just a simple way to attempt to silence someone. Just are you a scholar? Can't listen to you. Can't listen to you. You're not an expert on that in that field. Being able to read or think is pretty much all the ability you need to accurately criticize Islam.
So you could say,
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something,
Wait, what?
Right? Who said that?
Yeah, and Sam is going to respond. No, there are people who hate Muslims. There are people who hate Arabs. There are people who don't like Muslims just because they're Muslims and want to. Yes, there are people, and not saying that doesn't exist. That's not what's happening. If I say, hey, beating your wife into submission is bad. It's not what's happening. Yeah. What a dope, man. What a dope.
Real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why did you hear him? He goes, "That's big of you."
Look at that response, man.
That's big of you. That's big of you.
That's big of you. Oh God. Shut
up. About this,
it's gross. It's racist.
It's not.
He's instantly going. It's gross. It's racist. Oh my goodness.
That's that moment. Oh.
So it's like saying those statements, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad
ideas. But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jeez.
So we have.
I love Bill Maher there. It's like, exactly. How is this an issue?
We have ideas like blasphemy.
It's
an ugly thing.
Apostasy.
It is one basic liberal
let me
principle
unpack
of
it.
tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But
it just cracks me up. It's Ben. First of all, what in the name of what is Ben Affleck doing on this show?
Why is he talking? Too often, celebrities that became famous for completely different reasons try to talk about things that they shouldn't be talking about. Like, why is this guy talking about this at all?
Yeah, and I think Ben, because you do want to be careful, and your goal, if you're a liberal, should be, hey, let's keep the issues clear that we have a problem with bad ideas and we want to confront these ideas without making sure, without making people hate Muslims in general and despise Muslims or something like that. That's what you should be. That's all you should do. If you don't know what you're talking about, which Ben Affleck doesn't, that should be the goal. Hey guys, let's just keep it clear that we're talking about the realm of ideas and that there are people who are acting on those bad ideas and we need to confront those people. But this doesn't mean that you just hate all Muslims or something like that. That should be the goal. That should be the goal. And they would have all agreed on that. Instead of, how dare you, you're racist, you're being racist, oh my goodness.
A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Yeah, now notice what he just pointed out. It's like he's saying, look at this great guy that we should be supporting, who stood against the people. You know, this guy's killed for trying to defend people from apostasy laws. Okay, where do you get the apostasy laws?
Islam.
Why do you get the people who want to kill people who are opposing the apostasy law? Where's that coming from?
Islam.
How about the more than a billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punch women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second. Wait a second.
Don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims.
Wait a second. Stereotyping.
He's so, my goodness.
It's so dumb.
But it's the reason this clip blew up all those years ago is this is like so perfect. It's like, guys, this is simple. We have these values that we say we believe in. Islam teaches the opposite. We need to quit defending Islam from criticism. We need to stop doing that. It's not making any sense. We're not helping anyone doing this. And then, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist. That's it. That's what is going on in the culture, right? It's hey, common sense versus ball of emotion that you've been programmed to be enraged about.
Yeah, these guys literally just said there are a lot of problems in the Islamic culture, in the Islamic world. We need to talk about it. We can't just dismiss that as Islamophobic, because these things are concerns that we should be concerned with as liberals. And then this guy's like, what? How much? 1 billion people are perfectly fine. They're not radicals. Shut up, man. What a baby.
Let's get down to who has the right answer here. 1 billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these...
1.5 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs?
No.
I would... Well,
I think he just said... So Bill Maher said, okay, 1 billion people, because that's what Ben Affleck's... What about the 1 billion people who don't do this stuff? And then Bill Maher said, okay, billion. And then Ben Affleck says 1.5 billion. So he thinks 1.5 billion... And matter of fact, yeah, I forgot about this. This is where Sam actually points out, they start going into some of the statistics and saying, hey, even though these guys aren't doing jihad and stuff like that, it is very common to have some very illiberal views among the majorities in various countries.
They don't.
That's just not true.
He's going to mention it. He's going to mention it.
It's just not true.
Can I just express how I think it breaks down in terms of
the idea?
You haven't even defined it.
You're trying to say that these few people, that's all the problem is, these few bad apples.
And that has been the biggest problem when, what was it, Obama, when he said, 99.9% of Muslims do not support. And it's something that we had to point out to Rabbi Shmuley, which is, you pointed out, this is the views that you're saying aren't part of us. They're a lot more common than you think.
Yeah.
And they're going to point this out here.
The idea that someone should be killed if they leave the
That's
Islamic...
horrible. That should...
Wait. You're saying that the idea that someone should be killed if they leave the Islamic religion is just a few bad apples?
The people who would actually believe and enact that you murder somebody if they leave Islam is not the majority of Muslims at all.
Okay, but
one, it's definitely part of Islam. And two, you're about to get schooled on this, Ben.
Yeah.
Let me break this down for you. Okay, we have, as you say, we have 1.5, 1.6 billion Muslims. Now,
second biggest religion in the world, a quarter.
Well,
Ben, let me unpack this.
I looked it up on Wikipedia right before the show. Second largest religion in the world. See, don't I sound smart and I know what I'm talking about? You sound.
Let
me unpack this for you.
Please do.
We have
just
imagine some concentric circles here. You have at the center, you have jihadists. These are people who wake up in the morning wanting to kill apostates, wanting to die trying. They believe in paradise. They
Horrible, bad
believe
people
in martyrdom. Outside of them, we have Islamists. These are people who are just as convinced of martyrdom and paradise and wanting to foist their religion on the rest of humanity, but they want to work within the system. They're not going to blow themselves up on a bus. They want to change governments. They want to use democracy against itself. Those two circles arguably are 20% of the Muslim world. Okay.
So concentric circles, 20%.
This is not the
fringe of the fringe. What are you basing that research on?
A bunch of poll results that we can talk about. So to give you one point of contact, 78% of British Muslims think that the Danish cartoonist should have been prosecuted. 78%. So
Notice, so Ben pointed out, hey, you know, we've got free speech, and that is a value that we share, and so on. And so Sam points out, okay, 78% of British Muslims, we're not talking about Pakistan, 78% of British Muslims say, hey, cartoons of Muhammad should be, you should be locked up for that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So you've got a problem. This is not a fraction of 1%. It's most. In the UK, how do you not see that as a problem?
You just said Nazi.
Conservative when I roll this back to 20%. But outside of that circle, you have conservative Muslims who can honestly look at ISIS and say that does not represent us, that we're horrified by that, but they hold views about human rights and about women, about homosexuals that are deeply troubling. So these are not Islamists, they're not jihadists, but
those views are anathema to ours.
But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower the true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
It's just nuts that this would be considered controversial, or that this would be something that enrages someone, right? He's stating basic factual information. So, hey, we do have a problem with some very dangerous ideas. And then the response, but most Muslims aren't running around slaughtering people in the name of Allah. So why are you putting them all together, lumping them together in with all these other people? And Sam said, no, it's actually, once you look at some of their ideas, are majority in various populations. So don't act like it's this tiny minority or something like this. It's large populations who have some very, very illiberal views. We need to deal with that. And how is this even controversial? How isn't everyone on this panel here just in complete agreement here? That's the mystery.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Divide is not between Islam and the rest. It's rather between the fundamentalists and the moderates in each faith.
Okay, but we're misled to think that the fundamentalists are the fringe. Okay, we have jihadists.
Gosh, notice how he nails it, right? So hey, yes, you have moderates and you have fundamentalists. And the guy says, you've got that in everywhere, man. You've got that in every religion. Yeah, and we're misled to believe that the fundamentalists are some sort of extreme fringe in Islam. And
yeah, but that's just something you're saying, man. Like, dude, man. Yeah.
So, good points. Good points being made here.
Islamists and conservatives.
Well, and by the way,
there depends hundreds of millions of people fit that description.
You're saying that the strongest voices are coming from those who are jihadists and extremists, and that represents a bigger piece of the pie than we often think is true.
Yeah, notice, my goodness, this guy got it. Like, I don't know what it is about Ben Affleck being enraged about something, but somehow like a mental block goes up and we cannot understand a simple point. This guy at least understood the simple point. Hey, you're saying that this is not an extreme fringe, that it's actually a lot more common. Yes, simple point. And the only follow-up point is, hey, does this stuff go back to what Muhammad actually commanded? Is it actually part of the ideology, or is it just, some weird offshoot or something like that?
Question.
Okay, so having said that, and even if that is true statistically or otherwise, the key thing to recognize that I don't think is part of the argument, but I think should be, is that there are voices that are oftentimes raised in opposition to these jihadists and to these extreme acts. Yes. But guess what? They don't get covered. They don't get exposed. And they're not given the same level of platform.
Yeah, no, that was a fail here.
Yeah, that's totally ridiculous, right? Anytime someone, Islam's a religion of peace and tolerance, they put them all over the news for years after every terrorist attack, after 9/11, after the 7/7 bombings, after every terrorist attack, they would parade all of that. Oh, we don't support that. We don't support that. We don't support that.
You know what? Sometimes I feel this whole thing. You know how sometimes certain people say, you guys, you shouldn't be talking about this. You know, you are in no place to talk about this because of your background, culture, skin color, and all of that. I usually find those things ridiculous. But when I see conversations like these, as somebody who experienced Muslim culture on different levels deeply, and who listens to this stuff, to these guys like sitting there and just whitewashing and denying some very basic things that are totally correct about the Muslim world, such as that hating non-Muslims, believing in violence and violent punishments and all of that are very normal and very common things. These are things very common among the regular Muslim. You don't have to go to the jihadists or the Islamists and all of that. But seeing these people, give these speeches makes me think, please shut up, guys. Shut up, guys. Let those people talk who actually know. Stop trying to be these saviors who are like, oh no. We shouldn't talk like that about the Muslims. We should treat them with these baby gloves. The Muslims, they're all very nice people. Then let's not talk about the bad things, regarding Muslims. No. We shan't do that. We have to protect them. This is just so stupid.
It's really, really, really pathetic.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out, because it's the only religion that acts like the mafia, that kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
So you do have. That's exactly what I would have wanted to point out. So this guy points out, but there are all these voices that are marginalized and they're calling for change, and they don't get enough exposure. And Ben points, because they'll kill you over that. That's the problem. That's the problem. You can't, what happened? I mean, matter of fact, the guy pointed it out. He's like, I had my friend in Pakistan who's shot because he's advocating. Yeah, you can't even speak out against it because they'll kill you. Do you not? That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. You don't say, there's this guy and he got killed for speaking out against the apostasy laws. So you see, there are all these voices. Like, why'd he get killed? Why can't he speak out? Why can't he quit? Do you not realize there's a problem there?
There's a reason why Ayaan Hirsi Ali needs bodyguards 24/7.
You do have that element of fear as well, but you also have other braver souls out there who do speak out and who who
are risking their lives to do that.
Like the Muslim clerics and others from Australia to Europe to the United States just recently publicly put their names on paper declaring their opposition to what ISIS and So there are those voices, but where was the coverage? Where was that story to sort of create a different picture?
What is your solution? What is your ask?
Let's talk about those few people who speak out against it. Let's not focus on the bad that actually dominates the Islamic world. Let's just talk about those who speak out against that. Yeah, how about that? Let's be nice.
And then Ben starts babbling. What's your solution? So what's your solution? What's your solution? And it's like, I mean, step one would be acknowledging that there's a problem here, Ben. Yeah. That's kind of foundational. One, two, stop defending it. Stop calling everyone racist for pointing out the problems in the Muslim world. Just stop all that nonsense. That's kind of step one. Racist. It's kind of step one. I don't think we need to finish up this video. It's just Ben Affleck whining a bit. I'm trying to think if they said anything else that's relevant. I don't think there is. Well, we've been through it. Takeaway, there are some people who actually have some common sense. Some people have some common sense on all sides. And so even the liberals have their Bill Maher occasionally. You sit back and wonder what in the name of common sense. We're talking about, demons. I mean, AP, there comes a point where you have to start wondering. This is so easy to understand that people not getting it, it's got to be demonic, something. There's got to be some demonic influence here going on, because it's just pretty messed up. All right, everyone. So we've heard from everyone, and any final thoughts, AP?
Well, I would say there is one thing that people often say or ask in response to all of the stuff that is happening in the world, and that is like, so what is your solution? And my solution is simple: stay away from Islam.
Yeah, and I think we can sum up everything that's happened, everything we've discussed, with a song.
Ain't gonna follow no child molester, sex offender, prophet pretender. Ain't gonna follow no child molester.
Islam's not for me.
Ben.
Islam's not for me.
Ben Affleck.
Islam's not
for me.
So stop defending it, Ben.